Welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast, where we have conversations about how to elevate the quality of life through movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset practices. And welcome to another episode of the Greater Culture Podcast. Your host, Brad Marshall here. Today, I am joined by Nickie McKenzie, the owner of McKenzie Therapeutics here in Fuquay-Varina. Her and I have gotten a chance to interact and meet over the last few months. She's an awesome massage therapist who helps athletes to feel their best, get out of pain, and continue doing some of the things that they love. So I'm really excited to dive into some topics today, understanding how she came to own her own practice and things she's learned along the way. So Nickie, thanks so much for taking some time to jump on the podcast with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. I own McKenzie Therapeutics. I became a massage therapist about 8 years ago. I had been working in a restaurant and was really, really tired of the restaurant life. So I had already gone to school to become a massage therapist, but just hadn't actually gotten into the field yet. I saw an opportunity where I could go ahead and get everything taken care of to get licensed, and I did that, and I started right out the bat on my own. I had rented a room from a chiropractor and worked there for a couple of years, and then I moved out to a small room in Holly Springs. I was there for about 3 years, and then I saw an opportunity to take over a much larger space in Fuquay, and I live in Fuquay, so naturally I wanted to be back in Fuquay. And it's such a great spot. I'm able to rent out to other wellness providers, which is just fantastic. My goal has always been to have a wellness center where people can come and get not just massage, but get a nice variety of other wellness providers. So we have myofunctional therapy, and we also offer counseling there as well.
Yeah, I've had a chance to tour the space, and I love that perspective of having a variety of ways to help athletes or clients in general just feel better and find the right practitioner who's going to help them with that. And it's always interesting to hear people's stories of how they got into the profession that they're in, especially you moving from restaurant industry into massage. Talk us through what that transition was like, because it's a kind of a big pivot there to move from one industry to another, and how you came to make that transition.
So I had actually gone to school back in 2009 for massage therapy. I started out, I knew that I wanted to get out of the industry. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I started as a surgical technician, excuse me. And that's where I realized that I didn't like the sight of blood. So I was in the wrong field. So all of the credits that I had already taken transferred over to massage therapy. And I said, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll try. I had never even had a massage before, but I had already paid the money. So, you have to do what you have to do. And it turns out that I was really good at it. And so I had gone through the school, graduated and everything, taken all the exams, and went through some pretty big life changes. So I had to stay in the restaurant where I knew what I was making. It's hard to jump into another career when you need stability. So I stayed in the restaurant for a few years before I actually went and started practicing. But when when I found myself in the kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning in the restaurant, grouting the floor, I said, this isn't I can't do this anymore. So I went through the steps and started branching out onto my own. And I did both managing the restaurant and massage therapy for about a year before I completely left the industry. And that was a long year, but it was good. I learned a lot. And I love massage. It's when you're in the restaurant, you might have people that are thrilled to see you. You might have people that have just had a really bad day. And a lot of times they take it out on those that are taking care of them. You don't find that so much in massage therapy. Everybody's happy to see you. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely a nice little boost.
That definitely takes a level of commitment of not only going through the schooling, but then to say, hey, I'm going to work both jobs to figure this thing out, to work more towards a passion that you have that can then provide some of that financial stability that you're hoping to. So when you first started off then during that year, what did your massage practice look like? Because folks can get into all different types of massage, whether it's, more therapeutic, working at some of the bigger chain type of massage places. Some people like to move more towards athletic or sports massage. So what were some of your interests as you started to get your feet with the massage world?
So I have always been in and out of the gym, and I was also a runner at this point. Well, runner, a hobby jogger. I have never been elite or fast or anything like that. It's just fun. But I started in the chiropractor's office, and so I was seeing a lot of people who were dealing with injuries and just they were holding on to a lot of tension for whatever reason. And that's pretty much who I would see and who I would work on. But then being a runner, I was exposed to a lot more of that aspect of it. Um, and I really enjoyed working on the athletes. It's just when you get to work on somebody during their training phase and then they are able to complete a race or an event that they have been working towards this whole time, and you see the joy on their face. It's such a great feeling to know that in a small way I was able to help out with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing how people find themselves into the niches that they themselves like to be in. So you
Mhm.
being an athlete, I know you said you're a runner, also enjoyed lifting. Were you lifting at that
Mm.
point in time as well? And that kind
Yeah,
of helped with finding and building some of those relationships and understanding how bodies were working and how athletes need to be treated maybe a little bit differently than the general population.
absolutely, absolutely. It's really knowing what the bodies are going through. It helps you to gauge the type of work that you need to do. I know if I have a heavy leg day and I'm going in for a massage, I'm like, be easy, because I don't, you know, there's enough inflammation there. I don't need any more added to it. So we're just gonna,
Hmm.
flush it out. Things like that. It's nice to have knowledge of what people are going through in those moments.
Yeah, and when you were going through your schooling and then, starting to see some of these patients, did they sort of essentially educate and help you to understand, hey, this is going to be the difference between sports massage and deep tissue
Mhm.
versus just traditional therapeutic versus all these other genres? Like, how did you figure out and settle into like, this is the type of massage and then how I can best serve athletes and clients that I keep seeing come through the door?
They did a good job with distinguishing between the different modalities. Um, I went to Miller Mott, and they did have a really good program, so I was fortunate in that aspect. Um, as far as knowing that I wanted to get in how where I wanted to go with it, I really wanted to help people feel better the way I like to feel better, and that was what guided me.
I like that. And the one
Sorry.
thing I, the one thing I like too. Oh no, the furry friends coming out, which is awesome. We
I
always love having the furry friends be part of the conversations here. You have
well,
two awesome corgis. So talk
yes.
talk to us a little bit about your two dogs. 'Cause I'm just curious to bring them into the conversation.
So, Lily is an athlete also. She
Mm.
has run a 5K. Well, ish. She ran uh, about a mile, maybe less than a mile of a 5K. I carried her 2.5 miles. But she likes to get out and run. And Leroy is not much of a runner. He has some hip issues, so he does get his regular massages, and he always lets me know when it's time. but but no, they're so great. I'm fortunate to have the place that I have because I can take them into work with me, and that's nice.
I'm sure that makes people's experience that much better. Anytime a corgi is in the room with you, it just feels like everything's happier and more friendly having them around.
Yep. There's only been a couple of times where it's been a little weird. They might come up and sniff under the face cradle, but for the most part, they just lay there and just they doze off. It's like they go in there and it's dark and whatever, and they pass out.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that's
It's
their
funny
jam.
how dogs spend most of their days just sleeping and napping. They get these little bursts of energy, they get all excited, and then boom, they're just sleeping and napping. Sometimes I envy them and what their life looks like day to day. And I'm like, man, you get a lot more sleep than maybe I would like to get.
Same, same. It's we Sunday afternoons we reserve for napperoni and cheese.
Mm.
So that's just some good nap time with the dogs.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so you mentioned that they got good train or you got good training in
Mhm,
understanding sports massage and understanding how an athlete's body might work and how those massages vary to other
mhm.
styles. And so if people ask you, hey, how do I know or how would I best understand the type of massage that would best help me? How do you educate or help people understand that? Because when they're looking for massage, there's a lot of options and there's a lot of different styles and techniques. And sometimes people don't always know what they need or what their body might be best used for. So how do you
Mhm.
help educate people on that?
So I would say that a good 8 times out of 10 when somebody's coming in for the first time, they probably don't know, and I won't even know till I start working on it. I off The way my business works is I offer a maintenance and recovery, which is just like your standard. You come in, you get your hour, 90-minute massage, whatever you're looking for, and that's more just for upkeep, or if you're trying to recover from an event. And then I offer a corrective sports massage, which is a little more interactive. So if you're dealing with any kind of acute issues, if you pushed wrong and you have an issue going on, we get in there and we work on that specific issue. That's not as relaxing. Um, it's a lot more interactive. You'll be doing movements. We'll be doing a lot of compressions and a lot of assisted stretching, things like that.
I love those different styles of understanding. Hey, when you get in there on the table, let the therapist and the
Mhm,
expert sort of find and dictate what's going to be the best for you. And sometimes that does involve getting some movement involved
mhm,
of helping the body to restore positions that maybe have been lost or help to show you of, hey, these are some areas that maybe are tight or could use a little extra love. So the other thing that I always think is fascinating is what is going through the mind of a massage therapist as they're working on the client on the table in terms of like what you're looking for. What are some of the things that stand out to you? So when you get someone on the table and you're kind of navigating, trying to figure out what's going on, what are some of the things that you're looking for? Because I think as someone who's been on the table for a number of massages, there's certainly those like hot spots or those like, oh
mhm.
yeah, that one's a little spicy right there where you just pressed. But what are the things that you're looking for that kind of indicate to you, hey, here's what I want to do or how I'm going to treat you best?
So a lot depends on the reason they're coming in. Um, I'll look at the area that they are feeling it, but a lot of times it's coming from somewhere else. Like if a person is having a hard time raising their arm and they're feeling it in say the deltoid in the front of the shoulder or the side, yeah, you want to check there, but you also want to check the lats because if there's a hitch there and it's not wanting to release, then it's going to be pulling in the shoulder just because the lats don't want to let it go. Um, so you want to check for the other muscles that help the area, but also that pull against it because it could just be coming from that.
That's always interesting to me too, and I love kind of talking to and learning more from yourself and massage therapists. Of you go in there, like you said, hey, this area is a little bit fatigued, and all of a sudden they're working on a different area, and you're kind of like, what are you doing over there? And then all of a sudden they're like, try this out, and you're like, oh wow, like my shoulder's moving the way I
Mhm,
wanted it to, or my hips feeling so much better because you realize that so much of the human body's interconnected. All the
mhm.
muscles and all the tendons and joints and ligaments, all those things. And so trying to get them to all move in the way that feels good is tough and challenging. And so when you're working on somebody, I've heard it described as like we want some of the muscles to slide and glide and things like that. And when
Mhm.
they start to get almost sticky or a little bit more resistant, that's where we start to feel some of the pain sensations. Is that accurate, or how would you describe like
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
outcome goal is for massage?
I like to call it getting it's gunked up.
I like
it's
that
just
term.
it's just gunked up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you want to get all that tissue to release and you want it to let go so that it can move freely. That's ultimately the goal is just to improve the range of motion. And if you can get it ungunked or you can do that a number of ways. You can do it with your hands, cupping, scraping. It just depends on what exactly you need and what you have going on.
hmm And those different techniques that you just described,
Mhm.
those are ones that you typically like to use on athletes as well. The cupping, the
Yep.
scraping. You see a variety of modalities there. How did you come to learn how to use some of those different modalities? Did they teach you about that in massage school? Is that stuff
So
that you usually learn after?
they touched on it in massage school, but that I took extra continuing ed uh, classes for that, and that's something I'm. Massage is so great in the fact that when you get licensed for massage, it's just not licensed for massage, but it's also a license to learn more, and that is
Hmm.
just I'm always taking other classes to try and further. You can take a cupping class and get a good gist for it, but then there's always more you can learn. So I really enjoy going and taking the continuing ed classes.
It's a nice little badge of honor almost, depending on the practitioner you go to, where, you take a shirt off, something like that, all of a sudden you've got these beautiful little marks along the back, and it's like, what happened? I'm like, oh, just gotten my recovery and some body work done. But it is
Mhm.
amazing how much some of that does help and give some, evidence as to what areas of the body could use a little more work or a little more help. Do you
Absolutely.
do you have any techniques that are sort of your favorites or your go-tos with athletes?
Um, I do like the cupping. I've
Mhm.
really enjoyed that. Both the static, which is where you have like a specific area that you're trying to get the good fluid pulled up, but at the end of a massage, if you can do the dragging cupping, like say you're on the back and you do it on the
Mhm.
whole back, it's so nice and just freeing of the tissues. Just to, it's a good way to end that area.
Yeah, I've noticed too, it almost is an indication of whether that area has become ungunked almost, because
Hmm.
there's moments when it's moving, he's like, oh, that actually feels really solid, it's moving smooth. And
Hmm.
other times you almost can still feel like the little bit of hesitation where you're like,
Yep.
that's probably an area that's still gonna need a little extra love or extra care
Yep.
outside of or moving forward. So that's always a nice one too, to kind of feel that and be like, oh, that's what we're looking for, what we're hoping to achieve.
Right.
And so when you think about the different modalities, and why people come in and the types of massage they have, the other question that usually comes up is how often should folks be investing in or getting a massage? You hear, in the chiropractic world, there's like regular maintenance, so people get on certain plans. With physical therapy, depending on what's going on, they might have some sort of prescription of exercises and things like that. Is there a way that you've come to either understand, or you like to talk to people about, hi, what's the consistency or the frequency that's going to help me to continue to feel good, be able to do all the things I love, and allow me then to, stay healthy and fit?
That is such an individual basis question, um, because it depends on your activity level, the activity that you're doing, how sedentary you are, and financial. You I don't want to tell somebody to come in every 2 weeks if they can't do it. So it's you really have to gauge where people are in their lives and what they have going on. Um, Standard is usually 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. People who are heavily active, you might want to bump that up by a week or so. But yeah, standard's usually about a month.
Yeah, I found that to be pretty helpful. And depending on, like you said, training frequency, if
Hmm.
you're working out more days, pushing it a little bit harder, there's a greater likelihood you're going to want to increase some of that frequency if possible. But like you said, if you're moving and grooving 2 to 3 days a week, feeling really good about it, that general maintenance can enhance it, because what I typically find is people are trying to reach out to book an appointment or find a massage after sort of the acute injury or the
Hmm.
flare up happens. They're like, oh man, my shoulder's really bugging me, I need to go see someone. It's nice to think ahead, plan ahead, and put some of those on the calendar, knowing that most likely they'll find something that'll help, but it is just going to keep you moving and grooving the way you'd like. Do you typically see
Right.
that too with your patients?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I encourage people to schedule their next one before they leave, because it's hard to get in. I mean, if you're looking to get an hour or 90 minute, it's hard to schedule that on the fly. You kind of really need to have it already set up.
Yeah. And so, having been doing this now for, 8 years, what are some of the things that you've experienced over those years that get you to get excited to keep coming back to the office and keep working on people. Because I always think it's interesting when people pick a profession and then they stick with it for a certain amount of time. There's got to be something that they love about it that brings a lot of joy to them, that gets them to want to keep showing up to the office each day. So what are some of those things that either you've seen or experienced or get to continue experiencing that keep you coming back?
So one of the things I would say would be the relationships with the people. A lot of the clients that I've had for 8 years. So you get to see the growth. I have uh, one client I started seeing when she was 14, and now she's married and pregnant. So she doesn't live here anymore, but we still stay in contact. I worked on her and her whole family, so it's nice to see the growth in people themselves. It's also amazing when you start working with somebody and they come in for like their second or third massage and they're like, "Look what I can do. Look at this." And it might just be they're able to put their hands behind their back and touch their fingers. Stuff like that. We don't think about it if we're able to do it, but when you're not able to do it, it's a big deal when you have that movement back. So that's one of my I guess one of my favorite things is to see the progress that people make.
Yeah, seeing that progression from where somebody was to what they're able to achieve, what they can do in terms of movement and things like that, it really does fire you up as a massage practitioner or as a coach or whatever that might be. And it does really get that spark ignited to keep you coming back and allowing them to be successful or have a greater level of fulfillment. So those are really things that I know I personally experience as well that I love. And so over the years, I know you've been very active as well in the community and reaching out and giving back, joining the Chamber of Commerce, which is essentially how we got to meet.
Mhm.
So talk to us a little bit about how you think about, giving back to the community and how you love to engage and interact with them. Because I think that's really cool as a small business to really branch out and try and figure out ways that you can build relationships, connect, and give back to the community in which you live and you get a chance to work.
So I moved around a lot in my younger years, and I've lived in Fuquay since 2001. So I've officially been here over half my life. This is the first place I felt like I could call home. No family, it's just my husband and I and the dogs. And it is, it has become a family, the community has. It's just such a great place to live, and it's a great place to work. And I love the Chamber of Commerce because when I was first getting started, I was not great with networking, like at all, at all. It was awful. I hated it. Um, I can still struggle with it sometimes, but the chamber has really allowed me to grow with that. And it's given me a way to network to where it's not hard. It's just much more natural. Um, it's being a member of the chamber and going to the different events, it has just made it so much easier. You don't have to go and give your spiel and, you know, then you have to refer this person or you have to refer that person because it's in the group. You refer who you like to do business with, and you get to be a cheerleader for other businesses, and that's awesome.
I've noticed that too, is that shared desire for everybody to be
Mhm.
successful is really cool. And it is motivating to be around other small business owners because there's moments that are exciting and thrilling and there's moments that are tough and there's this roller coaster that it feels like you're on. But getting the chance to share some of those experiences with others, I feel like it does allow you then to be like, okay, they're doing it or they're on the path, or what can we learn? How can we do this thing together? That is what's so cool to me. And I think you just highlighted that perfectly of, being able to share in other successes, being able to connect with others, being able to try and push other businesses. And in a small town that's huge, I feel like we're kind of like that small town that's on the brink of being of really big. Of there's a lot of people, there's a lot of businesses, but being able to connect and share, that's one of the best ways I think that folks can learn about your business, but then figure out, hey, how do we all figure this thing out together?
Right. I'll tell you, if it hadn't been for a few people early on with me getting my business going, really encouraging me and helping to guide me through all of that, like I wouldn't be where I am. I would not have been able to grow and have the growth that I have. So I really like to get out and help others that I see might, need a little nudge to kind of help them in any way that I can, whether it's, even if it's just sharing a post or commenting on something on social media, um, or going to their ribbon cutting. It's anything that I can do to help other businesses. I feel like everybody should have the opportunity that I've had.
Yeah, I love that. And you see some of those posts get shared around of what are the ways you can help a small business, whether it's,
Mhm.
referrals, leaving a Google review, or, supporting them by actually engaging with them and going to, take part in their services or things that they offer. So there's so many ways you can help support small businesses, and especially keeping things local is really fun too. But I love that having the ability to reach out, ask questions, have other people who are willing to guide and share their responses and lift everybody up together. I think that's a really powerful piece around the Chamber of Commerce and what small towns are like. So it's cool that you've had that experience as well.
Absolutely.
So over these 8 years, you've had a chance to move from chiropractic office, jumping into Chamber of Commerce small business. You've got your practice now. You mentioned the idea of creating sort of a wellness center that allows people to experience or take part in a variety of services that can help them to be healthy, happier, and fitter. Talk to us a little bit about what that vision looks like, or even where did that come from, this idea of trying to create a more wellness or holistic approach to their wellness versus just like a specialized, I just want to have my own personal massage therapy place and that's it.
My goal with this is that I wanted to be able to touch as many people as I can, not necessarily physically with massage therapy, but to be able to have a place where people can get the help that they need. I know that my practice might not be for everybody. So I'd like to know that, if you need something that I don't offer, then I might have that in the office. Uh, it's mental health is a really big one right now. There are
Mhm.
so many people that are struggling. So it's nice that I have a couple people in the office that I can refer to if, somebody's looking for it. Um, Myofunctional therapy, that's dealing with like the breathing and the tongue placement and jaw and all that. That's huge right now. People's sleep is really not what it should be, and
Mhm.
a lot of times it's just because of the way you're holding everything. So offering that is a great service. Um, and I like to just have a place where other people can come and grow their practice. That's really important to me because, again, if it hadn't been for somebody renting a room to me, I wouldn't have been able to grow. So it's all about growth and how I can help others.
Yeah, and I think that perspective too of understanding that all these things don't exist just in a silo. Like if they're coming in to get work done because physically they're feeling tight or bound up or gunked up, well, there's probably also some other stuff that might be going on mentally, sleep wise, stress wise. So it's like, how do we figure out all these different ways in which we can help folks to be healthier and fitter, whether it is massage or some of the myofascial stuff or even some of the therapy, because that can be a
Yeah.
huge factor as well. So creating a center where it's easy to walk across the hall and get the help that people need, that's really cool. And so where did that idea sort of come from you, this idea of wanting to grow, wanting to collaborate, wanting to be with other folks? Is that just something that over the years you've kind of had in the back of your mind, is like, this is sort of the big goal that I want to work towards, or maybe a personal experience that highlighted that for you?
Now, I wouldn't say there was a personal experience for it. I just knew that I wanted more than me. I wanted something that was more than just about what I have. And that was what made the most sense, was to have a center where people can come and rent space and other people can get the help that they need.
Yeah, I love that. Something that, we're really passionate about too, of just understanding, hey, what does like the whole total person look like, from the physical side to the mental side to the emotional side to all the different ways in which people can get the help that they need, get some of the education perspective to live the life that all of us are really striving to. And with that, I know you mentioned that you're a runner, but you also enjoy lifting. So talk to us about what some of your current movement practices look like. It's always fascinating as someone who works on athletes and enjoys and gets inspired by that work to be an athlete yourself. So what have your sort of movement and fitness practices look like over the years as you've been a massage therapist?
So for a while, the big thing was running.
Hmm.
and the strength training was just to complement that. Um, I guess about a year ago, I kind of backed off the running, not for no injuries, nothing like that. It wasn't as enjoyable anymore. Um, so I started picking up the strength training a little bit more. And then earlier this year, I hired my own coach, um, which has been fantastic because then I like to set little goals for myself because otherwise, I mean, for me, what's the point? So like a lot of heavier weights, some heavy strength training, and that's all relative because what's heavy for one is not heavy for another. My PR is probably your warm up. So um, again, but it's just setting little goals, and I have recently started back running a little bit. Um, Again, it's more of a hobby jog. I just get out there and go. But I found my joy in it again, so that's nice. It's important to do what you enjoy. If you're gonna have a hobby, you better like it.
100%. That's one of the things I certainly have noticed in working with athletes is helping them figure out what are the things that they get excited about and love, and let's stay with that for as long as it takes, and then we can shift and adjust. So if at some point in time running is great, let's run down that alley. If
Mhm.
strength training and adding in some weights is fun, then let's do that. If yoga or Pilates or all these other modalities speak to you, or there's so many cool ways to both express fitness but also to work on our fitness, that it's cool to try a variety of things out. So you mentioned that the strength training was something that started to be fun and you got a coach. What did some of your strength training practices look like? Mainly like with a barbell, kind of the powerlifting side, or what sort
Um,
of practices did you do?
so it's a variety of exercises, and it was split by body part.
Oh, nice.
So I was doing like quads one day, hamstrings, and then glutes another day, and then uh, back and biceps and
Hmm.
shoulders and triceps. And just splitting it up day by day, and a good amount of barbell work, um, dumbbells, some of the machines like the hack squat. I had never used a hack squat
Mm,
before. I love the hack squat. Like I could push so much weight on that thing. Again,
yep.
it's relative. It's for me,
Hmm.
but you feel so powerful when you load it up with plates and then you push it.
Hmm.
I told my husband that I squatted him and a corgi. I was so proud. But so no, it's nice when you see those changes in yourself. You do something that
Hmm.
you couldn't do a month before. It's it's just such a great feeling.
That is, and it's fun because I can even see how excited you get thinking about it and reliving the experiences of hitting some numbers you didn't know you could hit, or
Hmm.
expressing a level of strength maybe you didn't have previously. So being able to challenge yourself, set those little goals, work towards it, and then hit it, it's like that's the motivation and gives you that endorphin kick to keep going because you're like, oh, that was fun, what's next? And I
It
love
really
that we're
is.
testing new things out.
Hmm. And it was the same way with running too. The first time you hit double digits for mileage, and then you progress every week during your training. It's just such a great feeling.
When you think about the little goals that you like to set, are they typically sort of outcome performance based of like I'm striving to hit a certain amount of weight or hit a certain amount of time? Or is there different types of goals or things that you like to work towards that keep you motivated and on track?
I guess my main goals would be progressing with the weights
Hmm.
to see. Of course, there's always a little bit of vanity and aesthetics behind that
Yep.
too. But that's just, I feel like everybody has that, whether they like to admit it or not. But no, for my goals, the big thing is doing what I wasn't able to do before. It's all about the actual action and just doing it.
I've certainly found that as well. And I think a lot of folks get excited about that when they can enter a score in that is a little bit heavier, a little bit faster than what they did before. And that's one form of progress, one form of being like, oh, yes, like I'm moving towards something. And then the secondary aspect of that is, like you said, of if we start to notice some of those aesthetic changes as
Hmm.
we continue to get stronger, we build muscle, it can change up our body composition, which can be a really fun experience as well and helps to keep us motivated and moving along the curve. So what are some of the current goals that you're striving towards? You said you just started adding a little bit of running back into the
Mhm.
mix. Anything on the horizon that you're like, this is what I'm striving towards or working towards?
So right now, like as I'm just getting back into it, I would like to really get to a point where I could start a small run group out of the office on like Saturday mornings, since the other offices around me are closed. Um, and that's just another avenue that I can use to get people moving. It wouldn't be anything fancy, just, a group of people maybe starting out running, just to kind of get their feet wet into it a little bit.
Yeah.
But um, I was actually thinking about one of my favorite races was the Mike to Mike half marathon. I've done that one a couple times, and it's such a great race. It's out in Fayetteville, and I was thinking about working towards that next spring, maybe.
Nice. I've heard that's a really cool and fun race to do. I haven't run that far myself in the previously, but I've seen and interacted with folks who have, and they said that's a really cool one. So it might be
It
fun
is.
to gear up for that. And I love the idea of the run club on Saturday mornings,
Mhm.
especially for all those folks out there who like to get a little fitness in before their weekend kicks off. So keep us posted on that, because we've got a couple folks over in our neck of the woods in our gym who are big fans of running and would love to start some kind of a run club as well. So I'm sure there could be a collaborative effort there to get people who want to do that out and run.
Nice. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's
we've got the Run the Quay coming up, so we've got a group doing
Yes.
that, and so you're helping with that though. You're not going to be running that one this year.
No, I'm not going to be running it. I have run that race many times. Run the Quay was actually the first race that I had ever run. It was a
Really?
10K. Yep, I just
Okay.
went straight for the 10K, and it was awful for me. The race is great, but I was not trained. I realized that I was maybe in a little over my head when a guy in construction boots and cut off jean shorts blew past me. Yeah, and he's like, "You're doing great," and I'm like, "I love this town," and I, it was awful, but it made me love running. So I can't. It's funny how something so painful can bring you so much happiness.
It's so funny. People ask me that about CrossFit as well,
Mhm.
because people come in for a workout and, the intensity level is at whatever's best for the person walking through the door. So, regardless if it's your first class or your 1000th class, the level of effort is going to be very similar. But yeah, people end up being really fatigued and really tired or worn out after a workout. And they're like, oh my gosh, that was so difficult or so challenging.
Mhm.
You're kind of like, I don't know if that was too much. And they're like, I'm coming back tomorrow. And you're like, all right, great. So it's something about that shared suffering almost of like
Mhm.
pushing yourself, challenging and doing something difficult. And then you get a community that surrounds you around that. And it can be
Mhm.
a really powerful way to keep people consistent and moving in the way that they like or working towards those goals. So Run the Quay sounds like it was just like that for you.
It was. It was. I loved it so much that I'm on the committee now, so I get to help out and have all the inside scoop on all that. It's
Mm,
it's a lot of fun. It's just such a great race, and there's I believe over 2,000 people registered for it this year.
that's
So that's
awesome.
really awesome. It is. It's very awesome. I'm going to have my tent set up out there, so y'all come on by and say hello and get some stretched out.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be needing some of that love and attention after the race. I had a similar experience where I thought I was fit enough to do a race, and it was a 10K for like the Holly Springs Police Department, and did that on a Saturday morning. I was like, I think I'm okay, and like the next day I couldn't lift my leg, like my hip flexors were just so blown up that I was like, this is not good. But that was me jumping in a little too far into the deep end there. But yeah, I've heard the Run the Quay that the course is a little hilly, so be prepared for that is what
There's
I'm
just a
hearing.
few inclines.
Just a
Just
few.
just a few inclines. Yeah,
Okay. I'm
both
starting off
ways.
with the 5K. So we have a couple members at the gym who are going to do the 10K. A variety of us are going to do the 5K. So
Nice.
we'll dip our toes in the water and see what that's all about this year. So we're excited to take part and come out and say hi over at your tent,
It That'll be great. That'll be great. You'll have fun. It's a good race.
especially if there's that many people. That'll be a lot of fun to see
Oh,
all that many people running through Fuquay.
it's so motivating when you have people all around you.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that movement's a big part of
Mhm.
your life in terms of running and lifting and things like that. I always think it's fascinating to ask folks what are some of the other sort of practices or principles or habits that they love incorporating into their life that help them to live, as happy and healthily and as driven as possible. So for you, what are some of those other practices that stand out as things that for you, hey, these are my non-negotiables, or the things that I try and accomplish or work on every day because it helps me feel like I'm progressing, moving forward, or accomplishing things?
I find trying to make time to calm your mind
Mm.
can be a challenge, but it's really important to at least put the effort into it. So whether it's prayer, meditation, you know, something just to while you're awake, because of course sleep, but it's important to just be able to calm your mind and give yourself a little bit of peace throughout the day. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just take a few minutes here and there to breathe.
I absolutely cannot agree more. And it's two of those resources that are probably some of the most valuable resources, our time
Mhm.
and our attention. And they're constantly under attack, it feels like, with things that are filling up our time and pulling our attention away from where we might like it to be. So, just like you said, the ability to calm your mind, even for a few moments, prayer, meditation,
Mhm.
mindfulness, ways that you can get back some of that attention and focus, allow yourself to be present a little bit more, can be a huge, huge difference maker in how you show up and get through each day. So I love that. So you got the
Absolutely.
idea of being a little bit more calm. Anything else for you that are the big practices or things that really stand out to you?
Uh, just really trying to prioritize your time, and I'm guilty of
Mhm.
not always doing that the best with all of
Yeah.
the things going on, all of the events and whatnot. It's easy to get bogged down with everything that you have to do in the name of work.
Hmm.
So just knowing when to say no is pretty important. uh it's it's hard to do sometimes, but you have to do it for your own peace.
Yeah, I agree. I'm similar, someone who says yes to a lot of things because you want to help people, you want to be
Hmm.
helpful, you want to be there for others. And what that can do is almost lead to a little bit of overwhelm of like, oh, what are all the things we've committed to? So setting some boundaries, setting yourself up on a schedule, understanding when's the appropriate time to say no to something, it can be a tough one, but a good one
Hmm.
as well to free up some of that time like you highlighted.
Yeah.
So I love those practices for yourself in terms of finding some calm, finding some time to let the mind settle, being able to say no, keep yourself on a track with your schedule. When it comes to recommending things for others, as somebody who has been working on bodies for the last 8 years and what you see and some of the trends and things like that, what are some of the recommendations that you would have for people who maybe are looking for, hey, what are the little small habits, behaviors, things that I could add into my day that would help me to move a little bit better, maybe keep my muscles ungunked, if you will? What are some of the things that you like to share with folks?
So one thing I would say would be to keep moving. If you're not moving because for whatever reason, start. It doesn't have to be anything big. Go for a walk, get outside, get some fresh air. Just movement in general. A lot of times people will be, excuse me, have a little bit of a pain, and so they think that the best thing is just to, rest and not move it. Providing a doctor tells you to rest and not move it, go ahead and move it because you don't want it getting locked up. Movement is the best thing that you can do to keep moving. It's a cycle. Um, Water, adequate water intake. We can tell. We can tell when you haven't had a whole lot of water, when you might be a little
Really?
dehydrated. Yeah. So I compare it. I'm big on food analogies. I love food.
Hmm. Love
So
it.
I compare it to beef. If you're hydrated, you're like a nice juicy ribeye. Mm, If you are dehydrated, you're like beef jerky. Don't be
Hmm.
beef jerky. It's tougher to get into them, and it just drink your water.
Yeah. I know that's a big one, especially now as we're starting to make that transition to summertime
Oh
here in North
man.
Carolina. It gets hot, start to sweat a little bit more. The body's working a little bit harder, things like that. It can be tough to feel like you're consuming and drinking enough water, and then, getting the electrolytes and things like that in there if you sweat a lot as well. So that's a big one. Yeah. Water
That's
can be a huge one.
the salt is, it's funny you say that. So I'm personally, I'm a heavy salt sweater. So like if I go for a run and I get done and I dry off, you cool off, I can flake my forehead and you can see. So it's like a dusty. It's so gross.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody thinks that salt is the enemy. But if you are active and you're outside and you're sweating and you're hot and just you're losing that, you need to replace it, replenish the electrolytes.
I'm sure the corgis love a post-run Nickie. Dogs are very much attuned to like, hey, you just worked out? Oh, let me help you out over there.
Lily loves it. Leroy won't even come near me. He'll go to the other side of the room or the other side of the couch and look back at me. Just like, don't come near me. So yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
He's a little disgusted.
Yeah, I'm a heavy sweater as well, and Tux always appreciates a post workout, even if you feel like you've dried and cooled off. Like there's still that salt level, like you mentioned. So yeah, getting those electrolytes in, drinking enough water, huge. And I didn't quite realize that the therapist can tell when folks are hydrated or dehydrated. And I guess that makes a lot of sense why after a massage, the encouragement is to drink a lot of water, especially to try and recover.
So I try to encourage people to up their water intake about 3 or 4 days before to start going ahead and getting that built up so that you're not having to play catch up afterwards.
Yeah.
It makes the massage so much more productive when we're able to not fight against the dehydration.
Oh, wow. That's really fascinating and good to know. Something will certainly encourage our athletes to continue to stay hydrated for just those reasons as well. So love those practices for folks to put into play. Movement is medicine. So just continue moving, find something that's fun and enjoyable, drinking enough water, those things, just those two practices alone can make a huge difference in how you're able to show up, the energy levels and things like that. The last question I've got for you is one I've always been fascinated with the folks who we have on the podcast, which is when you start to think about principles, standards, sort of those guiding lights, some people might even say sort of like your core values or things like that sort of guide or influence or shape how you interact with others, how you make decisions, how you show up. Are there any sort of principles, standards, values for you that are like, these are the cornerstone or the foundation on which I build a lot of the practices, the way you interact with people and how you show up in the world?
So yeah, I would say prayerfully is one. I like to make sure that the things that I do are in line with my faith and in line with God. Kindness, I try to treat everybody with a certain level of kindness that I would expect to be treated. Most of the time it works. Most of the time I get what I put out. And giving grace both to myself and to others, because at the end of the day, we're all people and we all do things that aren't always in line. So it's nice to give grace where it's needed.
Yeah, I love that. So living in alignment with faith, living in alignment with kindness, and then living in alignment with grace. Those are three ways in which helps you to show up, let you know that you're living authentically and spreading the cool work that you're doing with folks in the community, helping them to live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives. So for folks out there who are interested to reach out, connect, or get on the table with you, what are some of the best ways that folks can connect with you?
So my website is McKenzieTherapeutics.pro. I can also be found on Facebook at McKenzie Therapeutics, and Instagram is McKenzie_Therapeutics. So
Awesome.
those are probably the best
Yeah,
ways.
pretty much right in the heart of downtown, or in Fuquay off of Main Street. So the address is 105
Judd Parkway. North Judd Parkway Northeast.
Yep. Awesome. So definitely give a shout out and check out Nickie and her team over with McKenzie Therapeutics for massage therapy, but then also some of that myofascial release, or if you need any counseling services as well. Great folks over there helping out. Well, Nickie, thanks so much for jumping on the podcast today. It's been awesome to get to know you over this last year as we've been in the Chamber of Commerce and hear how you're impacting and working on folks in the community and sharing your passion with others. So thanks for spending some time today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Brad. I appreciate it.